Captain Marcus Vega stood on the bridge of the UES Phantom, watching the void through reinforced viewports. His ship was one of 12 vessels in humanity's most classified fleet, ships that officially didn't exist. The Dark Fleet had been operating in the shadows for 20 years, built in secret shipyards beyond Neptune's orbit. "Contact on long-range sensors, Captain," reported Lieutenant Torres from the tactical station. His fingers danced across holographic displays showing encrypted data streams. "It's the distress beacon we've been tracking for 3 days." The message had come from the Zilani Republic, a peaceful species of crystalline beings who lived in the Proxima Centauri system. Their plea for help had been desperate, speaking of an invasion by the ruthless Vorthak Empire. The Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as destroyers, leaving only ash and ruin in their wake. Commander Rebecca Stone approached Vega's command chair, her expression grim. "Intelligence reports confirm it, sir. The Vorthak fleet has already glassed 4 Zilani colonies. They're moving toward the homeworld with over 200 warships." Vega nodded slowly. The Dark Fleet had been created for moments like this. While Earth's official military maintained diplomatic relations with known alien species, the Dark Fleet operated in the spaces between, protecting innocent civilizations from threats too dangerous for conventional forces to handle. "Signal the other ships," Vega commanded. "Operation Shadowfall is a go. We jump in 20 minutes." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. These men and women had volunteered for missions they could never speak about, fighting wars that history would never record. They were humanity's secret sword, forged in darkness to protect the light. Chief Engineer Pablo Reyes reported from the engine room through the comm system. "Dark matter drives are charging, Captain. All ships report ready for quantum fold." The Dark Fleet's technology was decades ahead of anything else in human space. Their ships could bend reality itself, slipping through dimensions where conventional sensors couldn't detect them. They struck like ghosts and vanished like smoke, leaving their enemies wondering if they had ever been there at all. "Fold space," Vega ordered. Reality twisted around the 12 ships as they disappeared from normal space. The Phantom's hull groaned under the stress of dimensional travel, but the advanced materials held firm. Within moments, they emerged in the Proxima system, invisible to conventional detection methods. Through the viewports, they could see the Zilani homeworld burning. Massive Vorthak dreadnoughts hammered the planet's shields with plasma cannons, while smaller ships hunted down fleeing civilian transports. The crystalline cities that had taken millennia to grow were being reduced to molten slag. "Target acquisition complete," Torres announced. All Vorthak vessels locked. Vega's jaw tightened as he watched another civilian transport explode under Vorthak fire. The time for hiding was over. Admiral Theron Caney, commanding the fleet flagship UES Shadowbane, received Vega's tactical assessment. The Vorthak had positioned their fleet in a perfect blockade formation, trapping the remaining Zilani survivors on the planet's surface. Their confidence was absolute. They had never faced an enemy they couldn't crush through sheer brutality. "Disperse formation Delta 7, Caney transmitted to all Dark Fleet vessels. "Remember, we are the storm they never saw coming." The 12 ships spread across the system like predators surrounding prey. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering, sleek hulls covered in metamaterial that bent light and energy around them, making them nearly impossible to detect until they chose to reveal themselves. Lieutenant Commander Jason Cross aboard. The UES Nightfall monitored Vorthak communications from his stealth position behind the system's largest moon. "They're getting nervous, Admiral. Their sensors are picking up gravitational anomalies but can't lock onto us." The Vorthak had good reason to be nervous. Their ships were massive and powerful, built for overwhelming firepower rather than subtlety. They had never encountered an enemy that fought from the shadows, striking where they were weakest and vanishing before retaliation was possible. Captain Diana Ross of the UES Eclipse positioned her ship directly above the Vorthak flagship. Her vessel's adaptive camouflage made it appear as empty space to their sensors. "Sir, I have a clear shot at their command ship. Quantum torpedoes locked and ready." The Dark Fleet's weapons were as advanced as their propulsion systems. Quantum torpedoes could phase through conventional shields and armor, delivering their payload directly to a target's core systems. Each weapon contained enough exotic matter to crack a moon in half. "All ships, prepare for synchronized strike," Caney ordered. "We hit them hard, fast, and everywhere at once. Show them why humanity doesn't abandon those who call for help." The Vorthak Admiral Crux sat in his command throne, reviewing the final assault plans for the Zilani homeworld. His species had conquered 47 worlds in the past decade, and this crystalline planet would be number 48. He was already planning which sections to strip mine first when his tactical officer screamed a warning. "Multiple contacts! They're everywhere!" The Dark Fleet revealed itself in a burst of lethal brilliance. 12 ships materialized from nothingness, their weapons already firing. Quantum torpedoes phased through Vorthak's shields like they weren't there, detonating inside engine cores and weapon batteries. In the first 10 seconds of combat, 30 enemy vessels simply ceased to exist. But the humans weren't finished. Plasma lance arrays swept across Vorthak formations, cutting through armor like paper. Point defense systems that had never missed. A target found themselves unable to track weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The Vorthak tried to respond with their overwhelming numbers, but their massive ships were slow and predictable. The Dark Fleet danced between their attacks, impossible to pin down, striking with surgical precision before fading back into the void. Within minutes, the tide of battle had completely reversed. Captain Nina Blackwood piloted the UES Wraith through the chaos of battle with inhuman precision. Her ship was the smallest in the Dark Fleet, built for speed and infiltration rather than raw firepower. While her larger companions engaged the main Vorthak force, she had a different mission. "Stealth field holding steady," reported her navigator, Sergeant Mike Torres. "The rescue shuttles are away. They should reach the civilian transports in 4 minutes." The Wraith's real purpose wasn't destruction but salvation. Hidden in her belly were dozens of advanced rescue pods, each capable of evacuating 100 refugees from the dying planet below. While the galaxy saw humanity as newcomers to the cosmic stage, they had no idea how far human compassion could reach. Down on the Zilani homeworld, crystalline beings huddled in their broken cities as the battle raged overhead. They had resigned themselves to extinction when the Vorthak arrived. But now impossible hope flickered in their multifaceted hearts. The sky was full of explosions as their oppressors burned. Commander Jack Harrison aboard the UES Reaper coordinated the fleet's tactical maneuvers from his position at the system's edge. His ship bristled with communication arrays and quantum computers that could process battlefield data faster than any organic mind. "Admiral, Vorthak reinforcements detected. 3 more battle groups jumping in from hyperspace." The odds were still heavily against them, but Admiral Caney had expected this. The Vorthak always traveled in overwhelming numbers, believing that raw force could overcome any obstacle. They had never faced an enemy that turned their own strength against them. "Implement Protocol 7, Caney commanded. "Let's show them how humans hunt wolves." The Dark Fleet's formation shifted like a living thing. Instead of meeting the new arrivals head-on, they scattered into the asteroid belt that ringed the system's outer edge. To Vorthak sensors, it looked like retreat. In reality, it was the setup for the most devastating ambush in galactic history. Captain Maria Santos of the UES Ghost moved her ship into position behind a massive asteroid. Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Carlos Rivera, was already calculating, firing solutions for targets that hadn't arrived yet. "Quantum mines deployed, Captain. The entire belt is now a trap waiting to be sprung." The Vorthak reinforcements arrived exactly where human intelligence had predicted they would. Their commanders were predictable, always choosing the most direct route to their objectives. They had no imagination, no ability to think beyond brute force tactics. As the fresh enemy ships moved to support their beleaguered comrades, they flew directly into the Dark Fleet's web. Quantum mines that had been invisible to their sensors suddenly activated, creating a cascade of explosions that tore through their formations. Ships that had survived 100 battles were reduced to scrap metal in seconds. But the humans weren't content with a simple ambush. As the Vorthak fleet reeled from the mine strikes, the Dark Fleet emerged from hiding once again. This time they attacked from all directions simultaneously, their weapons coordinated by quantum-entangled targeting systems that made them fight as one massive organism. The Vorthak had brought 500 ships to crush a single world. Now, they found themselves trapped and dying in a battle they couldn't understand against an enemy they couldn't see coming. The battle reached its turning point when Admiral Crux's flagship, the massive dreadnought Worldbreaker, found itself isolated and surrounded. The vessel was a monument to Vorthak philosophy. Bigger, more heavily armed, and more brutal than anything else in their fleet. It had personally destroyed 17 civilizations. Captain Felix Morgan of the UES Doomhammer maneuvered his ship directly toward the enemy flagship. His vessel was designed for one purpose: taking down targets too heavily defended for conventional attack. Admiral, requesting permission to engage the Worldbreaker directly. Granted, Caney replied, but remember the mission parameters. We're here to save lives, not just take them. This was what separated humanity from their enemies. Even in the heat of battle, even facing an enemy that showed no mercy, the Dark Fleet operated under strict rules of engagement. They would destroy military targets without hesitation, but they would also accept surrender and protect prisoners. The Worldbreaker's captain, Admiral Crux, watched his fleet burn around him with growing desperation. His species had dominated this region of space for generations through fear and overwhelming force. Now they were being systematically destroyed by phantoms that struck from darkness and vanished before retaliation was possible. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," his communications officer reported. "It's coming from everywhere. The Amai signal is being broadcast simultaneously from multiple points around us." The voice that filled the Worldbreaker's bridge was calm and professional, speaking perfect Vorthak. "This is Admiral Caney of the Terran Dark Fleet. Your military forces are defeated. Surrender now and your crews will be treated according to Galactic conventions. Continue fighting and you will share the fate of your warships." Crux's mandibles clicked with rage. "Terrans? Impossible! Your species barely has faster than light travel. You're primitives." "Admiral," Caney's voice continued, "you have 30 seconds to decide. We can destroy your remaining ships or we can let your crews live to see their families again. Choose wisely." Around the dying Vorthak fleet, rescue beacons activated on the human ships. Even as they prepared to deliver the killing blow, the Dark Fleet was ready to save the lives of their enemies. It was a concept the Vorthak couldn't comprehend. Mercy from a position of strength. Captain Rosa Chen of the UES Silencer held her fire as she watched Vorthak escape pods launching from damaged vessels. Her ship's tractor beams were already reaching out to collect survivors, even as her weapons remained locked on targets that refused to surrender. On the Zalani homeworld below, the crystalline beings watched in amazement as their saviors showed compassion even to those who had come to destroy them. It was their first glimpse of what made humanity different from every other species they had encountered. The Dark Fleet had arrived from nowhere, fought like demons, and now offered mercy to their defeated enemies. In that moment, the Zalani understood they were witnessing the birth of something new in the galaxy, a power that could be both destroyer and protector, depending on who needed their help. Admiral Crux stared at the tactical display showing his fleet's complete destruction. Of the 800 ships that had entered the Proxima system, fewer than 50 remained operational. The rest were either destroyed or floating dead in space, their crews rescued by the very enemy that had defeated them. "Signal fleet surrender," he finally ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "Tell the Terrans we yield." Across the Dark Fleet, human crews watched as the last Vorthak weapons powered down. It had taken less than 4 hours to completely reverse what should have been an impossible situation. The Zalani homeworld was safe, the invasion force was defeated, and hundreds of thousands of lives had been saved. Captain Vega aboard the Phantom coordinated the final phase of the operation. "All ships begin evidence sanitization. Nothing gets left behind that could compromise our technology or reveal our capabilities." This was perhaps the most important part of any Dark Fleet mission. The galaxy could never know the full extent of human military capability. Their strength lay in being underestimated, in being seen as helpful but harmless newcomers rather than the apex predators they had become. The cleanup was as precise as the battle had been. Quantum scrubbers removed all traces of advanced human technology from the battlefield. Wreckage was either collected or vaporized. Even the quantum signatures left by their weapons were carefully erased from local space-time. Commander Stone supervised the intelligence gathering from captured Vorthak databases. "Sir, we've confirmed the locations of their remaining fleets and staging bases. Intelligence Command will be very interested in this data. The Dark Fleet's victory here was just one move in a larger game. Somewhere in hidden bases throughout human space, analysts would study every detail of the battle, learning how to counter similar threats in the future. The Vorthak Empire would find their expansion suddenly much more difficult as human-backed resistance movements appeared wherever they tried to conquer. On the surface of the Zilani homeworld, crystal spires that had been dark with despair now glowed with renewed hope. The survivors gathered in their greatest city to witness something unprecedented, their mysterious saviors revealing themselves. A single human shuttle descended from the fleet above, its hull bearing no identifying marks or insignia. From it emerged Admiral Caney and a small diplomatic team, the first humans most Zilani had ever seen. "People of Zilani," Caney addressed the gathered crowd through universal translators. "Your world is safe. The Vorthak fleet has been defeated and will not return. You have our promise that Earth stands ready to help those who cannot help themselves." The Zilani speaker, an ancient being whose crystal form pulsed with internal light, approached the human admiral. "Great ones from Terra, we owe you a debt that can never be repaid. How can we thank those who ask for nothing in return?" Caney smiled, an expression that somehow translated perfectly across species barriers. "Remember this day. Remember that someone came when you called for help. And if you ever encounter others who need aid, remember what it felt like to receive it." Within hours, the Dark Fleet had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared. Official records would show that the Vorthak fleet had suffered catastrophic system failures during their attack, with survivors rescued by passing merchant vessels. The truth would be buried in classified files that would never see daylight. But across the galaxy, the story would spread in whispers and legends. Tales of phantom ships that appeared from nowhere to protect the innocent. Stories of humanity's hidden strength and unlimited compassion. The galaxy was beginning to learn that Earth's children were both more dangerous and more noble than anyone had imagined. In the depths of space, 12 ships folded reality around themselves and disappeared into the void, ready to answer the next call for help that would inevitably come.